At this point, we'd like to take just a few minutes and have you hear from Professor Robert Troy. Bob Troy is the physics professor for all the pre-med majors who have to take physics here at UVA. He pretty much runs that program for us. He's also a physics teacher at St. Anne's Belfield, and Sophia, lovely Sophia, can vouch for Mr. Troy as a physics teacher, yes? And Anna, right? As well as Sue and myself.
And us. Natcher and I were in his class.
I had no idea. All right, we're getting all these endorsements. It's absolutely terrific. And I do have to say that we can also vouch for him because he taught our son physics at St. Anne's Belfield. And I will tell you, our son's love of science and what he is doing now would never have happened if it wasn't for this gentleman here. I do have to say that publicly here and on record because we've given that work magic with physics and with the sciences. So he's a good guy to get to know and to chat with. But in addition to all of that, if that was not remarkable enough, he is the author of two very, very entertaining and intriguing works of fiction, Denial of Sunlight, and we are raffling off 3 copies of this tonight, so hang on to your raffle tickets. If you don't have those, we will pass out more of them. And he will personally autograph them for you. And his second book is Emergence, but you have to read this one first to read Emergence. Or maybe you don't have to, but we recommend. No, let's just do Denial of Sunlight, and then we can talk about Emergence later. All right, so with no further introduction from me, unless Sophia, you would like to add anything to the list of...
I think I'm good.
All right, well, thank you. Bob, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you so much. Perhaps the most relevant thing I have to say to a group of university students and why they might want to listen to me and what I've done with the past 25 years or so is that I get to do the things that I like to do as part of my job. That's what my job is. I get to do what I like to do. If you're not certain how amazing that is, ask older siblings, ask parents, aunts, uncles, friends, anybody who's out into the real working world and see how much they can say that. It's not common. And so I just want to take a little bit of your time to reflect on how I found a place like that and a little bit about, what kinds of folks really would fit in with particularly an independent school setting, which is what St. Anne's Belfield School is. And if you might want to have that just kind of percolating, not in the back of your mind, but maybe on that, right window of icons as you think about your future. So when I was your age, I was fired up about physics, hopefully, and I went to a small Jesuit university and loved the experience, loved school. And really enjoyed the huge range of things that were on offer. And I guess one of the things that really connected with me was the pretty wide range of different electives we had to take. We needed 18 credits in philosophy, 18 credits in theology, 18 credits in history, and sociology, lots of writing, lots of literature, and then at some point you just stay up really late to do the physics and the math. And I didn't realize it at the time, and I wish someone had been able to share with me what's important. I know that one of the works you'll be reading is about a conscious career, doing what you want to do. One of the things I loved about that university setting was that wide range of things I got to do, and the fact that with the 40 minutes between one of my physics classes and one of my evening history classes, I would go out to what we called the quad and play some basketball, which then were some of the best Division III basketball players in the country. And they convinced me that there are certain things that weren't in my future. But it was fun nonetheless. So I went to graduate school. I knew I wanted to do physics. I was pretty sure I wanted the college life wanted to do what my professors did. And came here to UVA. And I was told, study what you really are passionate about, what really gets you interested. And that happened to be theoretical physics. And I finished my degree happily, brought my family here with me, my wife, my son, and we loved Charlottesville. And I get finished in 1994, and I enter the job market. And I think I want to be a small college, small university professor. What are some of the teaching schools that are out there? And what would be some great places to go? And I apply for some of them and realize that I am in the first group of people ever to apply for a physics assistant professorship tenure track that gets 1,000 applicants. One of the applicants was Alexei Abrikosov, who was the first citation in my doctoral dissertation and who everyone knew would win a Nobel Prize because Eastern Europe had just opened up and all the science talent was leaving there and most of it coming here. And Professor Abrikosov and I, he has subsequently been awarded a Nobel Prize, earned it very, very nicely. And we subsequently actually had a chance to chat at a conference while we were in the same search together. And it was kind of interesting. And he was doing exactly what I'd urge all of you to do. He was pursuing his passion. Exactly what he'd want to do all day. Now, what he wanted to do all day long was sit with his pencil and paper and his computer and his research assistants and do nothing but the highest level physics he could do. And I realized, in part at that meeting, that was not going to be for me. My research was good, but I was slow, in part because I like to stop out and play some basketball. I like to read some literature. I liked to watch the History Channel, which back then was a whole new thing. Well, I was also interested in current events and politics. So, my day wasn't quite right without reading through most of the New York Times, keeping up with Time magazine. And that gets in the way of being a real full-time researcher. If you've decided that what you want to do is work in a research chemistry lab and develop the next new polymer that's going to help, I should say, solar panel work. Solar panels, if that's what you want to do, if you are passionate about that and you would just miss meals for this, independent school life is not for you. If you have a driven passion to accomplish and achieve something, go for it. And so this is not to dissuade folks, but if you are really loving the multifaceted life you're living now, where you have a lot of different subjects to study, you interact with people from a lot of different backgrounds and a lot of different interests, and one of the things you love most about what you study is being in that classroom discussing it, keep that independent school teacher possibility open. One of the things that happens if you become faculty at the independent school is you really participate in all aspects of life there. They're not math teachers or just physics teachers or English teachers. Usually we teach across different subjects. We coach, we advise. We even have opportunities to participate in drama productions if that's what you like, sing with some of the student groups, although they've thanked me not to. And you get to work with students that are very serious about what they're doing as they're just about to enter the stage of life and scholarship that you're enjoying right now. A wonderful side event with that is that the teaching life, the teaching calendar does give you time to pursue other things that maybe you're really interested in but aren't really quite fitting into your work life, your professional life at the school. And so I'll just run down some of the things I've done. I've continued my research in condensed matter theory and boundary conditions on superconductors for about 7 years after grad school and starting to teach. Had just enough time to keep my brain from just rotting away during the school year, but then had some summertime to really pursue it. I wanted to teach at the college level. I was able to finish my PhD, and I became a visiting associate professor here at UVA teaching the pre-med sequence for the physics students. It's been a great experience. I've met some of the smartest, brightest, absolutely the hardest working people I've ever met. And that's allowed me to focus on what I really enjoyed about the college experience, which is the teaching. I don't have any research expectations or obligations, just the teaching piece. So that's been really wonderful. My research life got worn out. I got to where it was getting too hard, and it wasn't fun anymore. So you know what you can do when you're not getting paid to do something and it's not fun anymore? You can just put it aside. Occasionally I get an email from somebody, remember this paper you wrote, and can you help me? And it's like, I think I wrote that paper. We'll see how it goes. So at the time, what's the coolest thing about these things?
You can take pictures.
That's one cool thing. Pardon?
The touch screen.
Touch screen, even before that kind of.
Internet.
Internet. You can carry the internet with you. So I had a group of friends that were here in town and said, we really want to be able to build a wireless internet system in Charlottesville. Okay. And we started ARCOM. And we rented tower space on Carter's Mountain, that mountain where you see all the radio towers, and we put up our own radio transmitters, and we used off-the-shelf technology. We were out ahead of all the big broadband companies, and we were really happy. Things were going really, really well for us. Not so much financially, really, but our plans were going well. It was working. And so that was a lot of fun. How many of you actually might have a VHS player at home still? Okay, but now mostly DVD. Anyone ever hear of Betavision? Anyone ever hear of Betavision? Why don't the rest of them know about Betavision?
Too young.
Or too young, but also they were in competition with VHS, and they lost. The reason you don't hear about ARCOM is that eventually the big companies, and there were a number of companies like ours around the country, we weren't unique, but eventually that put a little bit of fear into the Verizons, into the cable companies, into the phone companies with DSL, and they said all of our customers have to get internet at least to their homes immediately, and we were done. Fortunately, we were able to sell the company to someone who wasn't as aware of that, and but at a fair price. But so then that transitioned over, and then ultimately I always continued interest in international affairs. And I was a big Tom Clancy fan. So if you mow your own lawn in Charlottesville, you spend a lot of time musing about, what am I going to do? What was something interesting to do? And so I started kind of conjuring up some Tom Clancy type stories that I was interested in. But I was really interested in writing a story that would be just woven into actual historical events, current events, and be kind of a backstory with that. And of course, if you're familiar with Hunt for Red October, a Russian submarine actually did sink. Where that submarine sank, and Clancy worked with that and used that as the cover for this backstory. So I was interested in doing some things like that. I was also, as I thought about the politics across the country, wasn't in a really happy place in 2008, 2009. And so Denial of Sunlight was born. And that's been a lot of fun. I'd be anyone who wins the raffle or happens to read it, I'd be happy to chat. I don't want to do a book talk now because I think I'm right at the end of your attention rope. But the big thing is that just sitting down and doing that writing has been a blast. It's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it. It's another thing I've been able to do right now where I sit down, I get started. My rule is do not get off the chair for 20 minutes and just put words on the page. And then I've had hours and hours and hours, even days, just vanish from me. Not with some help from coffee, but but really just lots of time go by like it hadn't even happened. And right now I'm working on the trilogy, the end, and it has to get finished. And so I might write some more, I might not, I don't know. But so these are some of the kind of things, and I have colleagues who've made very similar style careers and lives, but with very different interests, whether it be in pop culture and hosting local radio shows, or being serious athletes and some top competitors in their amateur fields, all across the board. My colleagues, roughly a third of us hold terminal degrees in some area. The largest one you might not expect, and no disrespect to the field, are attorneys who decide they don't want to practice law anymore and they're interested in more and different things. People from the business world, people from all over. And so it really is, it's been fun. It's still fun, which is good to say after 20 years. And if you're looking for a lot of broad things to participate in, give teaching a thought.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Questions? What would you like to ask Mr. Troy? Or Bob? Yes, go. Do you have a question, or you just?
Yes.
Yes.
So, how did you end up balancing? I'm also an aspiring writer myself.
Okay.
How did you balance writing on a series of novels with your professional work? I know.
That's where the calendar really works. That's where the teaching calendar allows you to do things. I do my teaching in the summer in the physics department. Mostly, I've taught some regular term courses, but not many. And I've been able to schedule that so that those occur in the morning. And I'm basically available around noon or so, early afternoon, to start doing whatever it is I want. I spent one summer around Memorial Day. I went back to my shelves and I started pulling books out of books I've read and I wanted to reread. And I had a stack. That's what I did with that time, one summer. But that kind of, the full afternoon, a lot of days, that 1 o'clock till 6 o'clock, or 1 o'clock to 7 o'clock is about it. Because while it's a lot of fun, it will drain you. You will want to sleep. And so that's it. And if once you have a piece, at least for me, once I have a piece moving, 2 hours, 3 hours, several times a week, can do it. And so if you can keep it going. So if you have some evenings, you can do that. But like with anything that you would pursue, it takes a commitment of time, and you have some choices to make.
So you think it's really difficult to do research and still lead a balanced life, or do you think that's still possible?
Everybody's normal functional level of balance is different. To pick Mr. Ford's, Mr. Flood's comments, everybody's idea of balance is different. And I guess I would say that things are balanced when you're satisfied. I don't like the term happy. When you're satisfied and content, because happiness is new stuff, it's a big burst. And I want that to happen for folks, but you can't just be overjoyed every minute. But when you're content and satisfied, and you don't feel as though you've left anything drop. For me, there were just lots of. I could never juggle actually, but figuratively, I like to juggle a lot of balls, and so if I was leaving something out completely, I'd miss it. I know people who do fabulous research and maintain a family life, but what they do with their intellectual and professional time is research. And so, yes, I think it's possible to do research and have balance for that person.
Other questions? you all are ready for the wrap. Oh, good.
Sorry,
Good.
I have
Okay,
one.
great.
Do you put like I wasn't sure if this book is science fiction or not. It sounds like it's partly as and also kind of a spy type thing, or
Yes, there's
So go ahead. Give
Yeah,
the plot line.
there's-
Give at least a plot line.
there's five interwoven plot lines. So that the theoretical physicist in me isn't entirely gone, just in haunts. And one of them is based on some science and some science fiction, so it's a mix. When you read the physics pieces of it, which are focused on photovoltaic cells, a revolutionary new discovery of photovoltaic cells, a physicist in that area would recognize the pieces that are real and the pieces that are use the real words but aren't real. And so and there's a not so subtle distinction there. And there are a few things in there that are developed out of real physics principles that you know about that I'm not sure have been deployed the way I talk about them, but I'm pretty sure that there are certain devices out there that do the things. It's not Star Trek-y kind of science fiction, so it's not out there. It's not fantasy, but it is again, without getting hit in plot line too much. There's a lot of political criticism in the series about what the nation has done, and ultimately, since full exposure is almost done, that I think who's ultimately responsible for it are the voters. One of the things some folks who read this, actually I was accosted a couple of times, complaining that it was a conspiratorial hatchet job against Republicans. And they have a hatchet coming for them, but but so do the Democrats. You'll find that there's no one is mentioned by party affiliation in it, and no leaders are named. Actually, they don't have names. And so that's just kind of how I'm getting that out of myself.
This might be sort of a weird question, but you mentioned that you've written obviously To Now Sunlight and a sequel to it, and you're working on the third, which you sort of complete the trilogy. I was just wondering, as a writer, how did you figure out that 3 was the correct number for you to tell this story?
I knew it was going to hit 1,000 pages, and I knew that I wasn't going to sit down and read 1,000 pages between 2 bindings of this, and I kind of knew what my schedule was going to be. And you get to a certain time, not so much a certain number of pages, but you get to a certain amount of time spent with the story, and you want to see something kind of come to closure. And I was able to identify spots that really do hit inflection points, where you have that kind of closure, that kind of transition to do it. And so that was basically the decision with that.
We don't want people to keep from asking you questions, but some people may want to ask you questions independently or privately. But I would like to, before we do the raffle, as a token of our appreciation, just present this to you.
Thank you.
Just a memory of being here. So what I am going to do with Bob's help here is just draw some raffle numbers as quickly as we possibly can, because I know you do want to have some time to maybe talk with him informally. So I'm going to ask you to do me a favor and just follow John out, because I need that parking. I will forever, Chris will never forgive me if I don't get that. Okay? All right, so here, what we're going to do is if you can hand them to me.
That's right.
All right, I'm going to just, they're all 661-9s, right? Everybody has 661-9s? So I'm just going to do the last 2 digits. 25, do we have a 25? No? Oh my gosh, all right, number 1. All right, now you hold on to the book and Bob will autograph it for you. How about a 46? We have a 46? We have a 46. Great. All right, and number 3, how about 49? Is there a 49 in the room? Yay, 49. All right. So thank you. Let's give Bob another round of applause. All right. And I think all the food is gone, but now it's just time for conversation and a chance for you to interact with each other. So thank you again very much for being here.